The British monarchy is an institution built on centuries of absolute loyalty, unshakable duty, and an unwavering commitment to the crown. There is no middle ground when it comes to serving the sovereign. You are either entirely devoted to the grueling, often thankless schedule of public service, or you are a private citizen. But right now, a familiar storm is brewing across the Atlantic, and it threatens to completely upend that ancient tradition. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are reportedly maneuvering to secure a highly controversial half-in, half-out return to the royal family. It is a plot that many thought was buried years ago, but recent developments suggest the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are actively hoping to carve out this hybrid role for themselves. While this might sound like a modern compromise to some, behind the palace walls, it is being viewed as an absolute nightmare, particularly for the future king, Prince William. To understand why this is such a catastrophic scenario for Prince William, we have to look at what a half-in, half-out model actually means for the monarchy. It is not just about showing up for a few balcony appearances or cutting a ribbon every now and then. It represents a fundamental rewriting of the royal rulebook. This model would allow Harry and Meghan to retain the glittering prestige, the global reverence, and the sheer star power that comes with their royal titles, while simultaneously living in California as private, commercial citizens, free to sign massive corporate deals. It is a dual existence where they could theoretically enjoy the immense financial benefits of being Hollywood celebrities, and then, whenever it suits their schedule or their brand, step back into the majestic, velvet-roped world of the British monarchy. For a man like Prince William, whose entire life has been strictly governed by duty, protocol, and the heavy burden of his future role as king, this proposition is nothing short of insulting. He has dedicated every waking moment to protecting the integrity of the institution. To him, the monarchy is not a brand you can dip in and out of when you need to boost your public profile. It is a lifelong vow. Yet the signs that this hybrid return is being slowly orchestrated are becoming impossible to ignore. Just this month, a deeply significant milestone occurred that sent shockwaves through royal watching circles. For the first time in 4 long years, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex reunited their 2 children with King Charles. This was not just a casual family get-together. In the highly orchestrated world of royal relations, a meeting like this is a massive diplomatic thaw. For 4 years, King Charles has been separated from his grandchildren, watching them grow up from thousands of miles away. The emotional toll of that separation on a grandfather cannot be understated. By bringing the children to see the king, Harry and Meghan have effectively opened a door that had been firmly bolted shut. It was a masterstroke of emotional diplomacy. This reunion is being widely interpreted by royal experts and insiders not just as a family healing a rift, but as a calculated, deliberate step towards the couple re-entering the royal fold in some capacity. It softens the ground. It shifts the narrative from a bitter, estranged feud to a story of a family trying to find common ground. But this thawing of relations is exactly what makes Prince William so deeply uncomfortable. The future king finds himself in an incredibly difficult position. On one hand, he is watching his father, the king, naturally desire a relationship with his youngest son and his grandchildren. Charles is acting as a father and a grandfather, driven by emotion and a desire for peace in his twilight years. On the other hand, William is looking at the long-term survival and dignity of the crown. He remembers the damage that has been done over the past few years. He remembers the accusations, the breaches of trust, and the relentless media campaigns directed at the very heart of the family. The idea that Harry and Meghan could simply waltz back into a customized part-time royal role after everything that has transpired feels like a profound injustice to the working royals who stayed behind and kept the institution running. It is a nightmare scenario for William because it forces him to navigate the treacherous waters between supporting his father's personal happiness and defending the institution he will one day lead. This dynamic creates a volatile triangle of power, emotion, and duty. The prospect of Harry and Meghan carving out a bespoke existence, one foot in the glamorous, wealthy hills of Montecito and the other foot resting firmly on the red carpets of Buckingham Palace, strikes at the very core of what William believes the monarchy should be. He knows that if this half-in, half-out model is permitted, it will set a dangerous precedent. It will signal to the world that royal duty is negotiable, that the privileges of the crown can be monetized, and that the ultimate loyalty to the sovereign can be swapped out for corporate partnerships and media deals. The reunion with King Charles may seem like a sweet, private family moment on the surface, but in the grand chessboard of royal survival, it is a significant move. It is a move that has left Prince William bracing for a future he fought so hard to prevent. A future where the lines between royalty and celebrity are permanently and dangerously blurred. The fear that these blurred lines will become a permanent reality is not just a private anxiety held within the palace walls. It is a very public debate, and the consensus among many observers is exactly aligned with Prince William's darkest apprehensions. Recently, Talk TV host Mark addressed this highly sensitive issue head-on, openly branding the mere suggestion of a half-in, half-out return as an absolute nightmare for the Prince of Wales. Dolan's assessment strikes at the very heart of the royal rift, highlighting a tragic reality that has come to define the modern monarchy. Prince William is simply not thought to be on speaking terms with his younger brother anymore. Following years of deep, bitter estrangement, the communication between the once inseparable siblings has reportedly ground to a complete halt. For For William, the betrayal was too profound, the public attacks too damaging, and the breach of trust too severe to simply overlook. The idea of suddenly having to share the royal stage, the resources, and the global spotlight with the very people who spent the last several years publicly dismantling the family's reputation is a logistical and emotional minefield. William has spent this period of estrangement trying to steady the ship, focusing on his duties, his family, and the future of the crown. To have Harry and Meghan parachuted back into the working structure, even on a part-time basis, threatens to undo all of that stabilizing work and plunge the institution right back into the chaotic soap opera that William so desperately wants to escape. Adding intense historical context to this unfolding drama, broadcaster Sarah Louise Robinson appeared on Dolan's morning show and reminded the public of a crucial, defining precedent. This concept of a half-in, half-out model is not a new invention or a fresh proposal. It is the exact same blueprint that Harry and Meghan presented years ago, and it was expressly and categorically banned by the late Queen Elizabeth II before her death. The late Queen, with her decades of unparalleled experience and her unwavering dedication to the crown, recognized the inherent dangers of such an arrangement instantly. Robinson pointed out that Queen Elizabeth was an incredibly astute diplomat, a monarch who possessed an innate understanding of exactly what the institution needed to survive. She saw right through the proposal. The Queen understood that the magic of the monarchy relies entirely on its mystique and its total separation from commercial enterprise. When presented with the Sussexes' plan to divide their time and loyalties, she delivered a firm, uncompromising verdict, declaring absolutely not, this is not allowed. She knew that allowing members of the inner circle to commercialize their royal status would fatally compromise the integrity of the crown. There could be no part-time royalty. The strategy that the late Queen saw through, and the one that experts like Robinson argue is still very much in play today, is highly calculated. As Robinson so bluntly articulated, Meghan and Harry essentially wanted to be able to cash in on their royal titles and their historic lineage while living in the sun-drenched, celebrity-filled enclaves of California. The reality of their new life in America demands an astonishing amount of money. From the sprawling mansion in Montecito to the extensive private security details, maintaining a lifestyle comparable to royalty without the sovereign grant requires massive, ongoing income. Their plan, therefore, relies on monetizing the immense global fascination with their royal connections. But they also recognize that their brand's true value stems entirely from their association with the British monarchy. Without the royal fairy dust, their commercial appeal diminishes significantly. Therefore, the second phase of this strategy, according to Robinson, is to occasionally scoot back into Britain as and when they desire. By undertaking highly publicized strategic trips back to the United Kingdom to engage in royal-adjacent philanthropy, they can effectively polish their halos, boost their public images, and remind the world of their royal pedigree. It is a cyclical maneuver designed to extract commercial value in America while using British charitable endeavors as a reputational shield and a branding exercise. However, the formidable barrier that Queen Elizabeth II erected to prevent this very scenario may now be eroding. The late Queen's ironclad enforcement of the rules is no longer the governing force in Buckingham Palace. Instead, the institution is now overseen by King Charles, a man who, despite his lifelong preparation for the throne, approaches family matters with a remarkably different temperament. Robinson highlighted this critical shift, suggesting that the strict ban on the half-in, half-out model may not be so rigorously enforced by the current king. Charles is widely perceived to have a much softer touch when it comes to his youngest son. He is a father who has been deeply wounded by the estrangement and, naturally, longs for reconciliation. This parental vulnerability is arguably the very loophole that Harry and Meghan are currently navigating. While the late Queen operated with the cold, precise logic of a sovereign protecting a thousand-year-old institution, King Charles is navigating the incredibly messy, emotional terrain of a father wanting to heal a fractured family. It is through the king's vulnerability and inherent softness that Meghan and Harry have allegedly managed to inveigle their way back into the picture. They are testing the waters, dipping a toe in to see how far the boundaries can be pushed. By leveraging the king's desire for familial harmony, they are slowly, methodically, securing a little bit of space back within the royal fold, inching closer to the hybrid reality that Queen Elizabeth flatly rejected, and bringing Prince William's ultimate nightmare dangerously close to life. The reason this potential return is so intensely triggering for Prince William, and why the late Queen's ban was so fiercely defended, cannot be fully grasped without looking back at the sheer scale of the damage inflicted over the last 6 years. Since stepping down and relocating to the United States 6 years ago, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have not simply lived a quiet, unassuming life of financial independence. Instead, the very foundation of this unprecedented royal rift was meticulously built on a relentless campaign of severe, highly public criticism levied directly at the most senior members of the monarchy. For William, the wounds are not just fresh, they are deeply personal, because the targets of these highly lucrative media attacks were his father, his stepmother, his beloved wife, and himself. The systematic dismantling of royal family trust began on a global stage with the explosive Open Oprah Winfrey interview. Sitting under the California sun, Harry and Meghan lobbed metaphorical grenades over the palace gates, airing grievances that shook the institution to its core. They painted a picture of an uncaring, rigid, and trapped family. For the working royals back in London, it was a moment of sheer disbelief. The sacred code of royal silence, the lifelong commitment to never complain and never explain, was being shattered on primetime television for tens of millions of viewers to dissect. King Charles and Prince William were publicly described by Harry as being trapped in the system, a characterization that deeply offended the men who have dedicated their entire lives to upholding that very system. But the Oprah interview was merely the opening salvo in a multi-million-dollar media blitz. Next came the sprawling, 6-part Netflix documentary series, a project that took the private, fiercely guarded inner workings of the House of Windsor and packaged them for mass commercial consumption. Through hours of curated footage and highly produced emotional monologues, the Sussexes continued to levy heavy criticism, often framing the royal institution as a direct antagonist to their personal freedom and happiness. The documentary took aim at the royal hierarchy, subtly and sometimes overtly criticizing the way Prince William and Princess Kate operated. It contrasted the supposedly cold, formal reality of the UK royals with Meghan's warm, hugging American persona. It was a carefully constructed narrative designed to elevate the independent Sussex brand at the direct expense of the future king and queen's public image. However, the absolute final nail in the coffin of brotherly trust came in the form of a book. Prince Harry's record-breaking autobiography, Spare, crossed every conceivable line of royal decorum and familial loyalty. In its pages, Harry did not just criticize the overarching institution. He launched deeply personal, devastating strikes against his own flesh and blood. He targeted Queen Camilla, painting her with a ruthless brush and accusing her of leaking private stories to the press in order to rehabilitate her own image at his expense. He targeted King Charles, framing him as an emotionally stunted father who communicated through letters left on pillows rather than offering face-to-face affection. He took aim at Princess Kate, bringing up petty, private disputes over bridesmaid dresses and portraying her as rigid and unwelcoming to his wife. But the most brutal, unforgiving attacks were reserved for Prince William himself. Harry exposed deeply private arguments, detailed a shocking alleged physical altercation where he claimed William knocked him to the floor, and laid bare a lifetime of bitter, agonizing resentment over being the so-called spare to William's heir. After 6 years of profiting from the public teardown of Charles, Camilla, William, and Kate, the audacity of now seeking a comfortable, half-in, half-out return is staggering to those inside the palace. This is exactly why Prince William views the situation as a waking nightmare. He is essentially being asked to share the balcony, the prestige, and the ancient legacy of the crown with the very brother who sold their most painful, private moments to the highest bidder. As King Charles navigates his deep emotional vulnerability and his understandable desire to see his estranged grandchildren, the future king stands as the last line of defense for the strict rules of the monarchy. The coming months will be absolutely critical. Will the soft touch of a forgiving father allow the Sussexes to successfully infiltrate the royal fold once again? Or will Prince William's ironclad sense of duty slam the door shut on a part-time royal future forever? The battle for the soul and the survival of the British monarchy is far from over. What do you think about this explosive royal dynamic? Do you believe Harry and Meghan should be allowed a half-in, half-out role? Or is Prince William completely right to block their return? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the royal family's ongoing saga, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the latest royal news. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.